Charm isn't something you can typically engineer into a new car, but when the Veloster debuted back in 2012, it was oozing with it. For the second generation model year, the Veloster maintains its quirky edge, and I mean that in a good way. People bought the first generation Veloster because it looked like nothing else on the market. On the one side, it looked like a sporty coupe, but on the other side, it looked like a family-friendly compact. Asymmetrical design was finally hitting its stride with the mass market. But more than that, the Veloster looked fun, but could be a bit more engaging. There were a few complaints in the original Veloster's formula. The transmission needed work to feel sharper, the suspension was a bit wobbly and fussy, and the steering feel was non-existent. The new generation Veloster has not only resolved all these issues, but it did so without messing with the original elements that made the car so interesting. Size-wise, it's more or less the same size as the original V. It's barely an inch longer and less than half an inch wider. But Hyundai has given the vehicle a slightly more aggressive look, with a big wide grille, big fender flares, functional aero tweaks, a rear diffuser, and available 18-inch wheels. Hyundai also made the interior of this car very unique, and unlike anything else they make. There's a very clear difference between the driver's side and passenger side, and I love these sporty bucket seats that have splashes of color in them. The car is still small and can feel a bit cramped in the back, but it's definitely more hospitable than a Mini Cooper. The Veloster makes up for its small size with some impressive cargo capabilities. It packs almost 20 cubic feet of storage space, which not only dwarfs other compacts in the segment, but is actually better than some crossovers, like the Toyota CHR and Jeep Renegade. And this being a Hyundai, it's loaded with all kinds of tech and value. There are 2 available infotainment systems with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support. There's also wireless charging capability, a head-up display, automatic climate control, power lumbar adjustment, leather seats, rain-sensing wipers, push-button start, and even Amazon Alexa and Google Home support via the Hyundai BlueLink services. All of that is set on a front-wheel drive platform that's very similar to what you find in the Elantra GT. Now, gone is that naturally aspirated 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine, and instead you have a 2-liter engine, one that makes 147 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque. You can get that engine in base models with either a 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic. But more interestingly, you should get the 1.6-liter turbo, which is what we have here. It makes 201 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque, and that may sound like a carryover engine, but now it has an overboost function that will deliver 202 pound-feet of torque in certain situations. Now you get that car with a fantastic manual transmission, as well as a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. And seriously, this manual transmission is a highlight of the vehicle. It's clear that Hyundai did their homework, and I said this back when the Elantra Sport debuted. They benchmarked some of the best transmissions in the business, and enthusiasts will be happy with the 6-speed manual that you get in this car. The throws are very crisp and easy to find, and even the clutch feel is good too. The new Veloster is much improved over the old model, and refined too, but one thing's for sure, it's very loud, and quite stiff as well. The car has a few different drive modes, including a sport mode that changes the steering and throttle response, and it changes what you see on the head-up display to a full-color red tachometer, which is pretty neat. And speaking about that head-up display, I think it does a really good job because it's nice and big and easy to see, as well as showing you information that's going on in your blind spot. The steering is much sharper in this car than I remember it ever being in the Veloster, and that probably has a lot to do with some of the refinement that they've done there. The steering gearbox is now closer to the center, and that gives the car better stability as well. Additionally, Hyundai has included more aluminum components in the suspension, and that helps keep weight down. But one of the most important parts of this car is the suspension setup. It's now a fully independent multi-link rear suspension setup, which is a huge difference from the old beam setup that was wobbly over rough pavement. In fact, the rear beam suspension really stopped the Veloster from achieving what it could as a sporty car. But now, the car feels much more planted and confident. And honestly, I can see this car being a lot of fun on the track and at an autocross circuit. Another thing to note is that this car doesn't come with a mechanical limited slip diff, but it has torque vectoring instead. And it didn't seem like a huge deterrent at all. And one final, very important piece to the Veloster Turbo are these Michelin Pilot Supersport 4 tires. They're fantastic, they're so sticky, and they just suit this car's nature very well. We're testing the 1.6-liter turbo right now, and it's a very good engine. In fact, I would recommend this, especially in comparison to the Honda Civic SI's engine. The drive modes also change what you hear. This car actually has an active sound engine management system, so when you put it into sport mode, you'll hear a little bit more of this exhaust note. And finally, since this is a modern car, the Veloster is chock full of driver assistance features. It has blind spot monitor and lane keep assist, and there's rear cross traffic alert and a great rear view camera. When it comes to pricing, the Veloster is aggressively situated. You can get the 2-liter base model for around $19,000 in the US, and the turbocharged model will set you back around $23,000. Fully loaded, you're expected to spend around $30,000, which is great value for this much power and style. In the past, the Veloster didn't quite measure up to its looks. I mean, it looked cool, but it lacked all of the fun-to-drive elements of a sporty compact. The new model not only rectifies that, but it establishes the Veloster as a fun-to-drive vehicle with a ton of equipment.